And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor JRod. In today's episode, we're going to talk about mentors and what's the best advice you've been given. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor JRod. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Professor JRod. I'm a professor of cybersecurity, and I like helping students pass the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus exams. And usually this is what this podcast is about, but every now and then I like to dip into other topics, and today we're going to dip into advice that you've given and mentorship. So what are the best pieces of advice you've gotten? I've gotten three. I've gotten a lot, but I'll talk about three. The first one was many years ago, when one of my first corporate jobs that I've ever had, working in an office 9 to 5, right, Monday through Friday. And that was, and you might find this strange, that IT is part of communications, right? And that means you have to be a good communicator to work in IT. And you need to be a good communicator to work in anything, I feel. But you especially need to be a good communicator in IT. So what do I mean by that? Well, you need to tell people that something worked or something didn't work, right? You need to tell something that, I'm going to do this, or I've tried that, or I'm going to do this later, or I haven't gotten into that. Like just normal, basic communications, especially in IT, because it could hurt you in the end. And, I used to work with this company, and this one gentleman, older gentleman, told me that. He says, communications, IT is part of communications, and you have to be a good communicator. You have to know how to write a memo. This is back when they didn't have emails, right? You have to learn how to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, this is what I did. This is what's happening. You have to learn how to take accountability, because nobody in IT likes somebody who says, I didn't do that, when everybody knows that you did it, right? So it's good to communicate something that didn't work, right? You tried it a bunch of times. Say, oh, look, I tried it. I don't know what's wrong. And then maybe somebody else out there knows how to fix it or can guide you into getting it fixed. That used to happen to me a lot, especially when I was younger, 19, 20 years old, 21 years old. I don't know anything about working in an office. What do I know about that? But it took me, a couple of years to understand that concept, and very grateful for that advice. Did get yelled at a lot, but still grateful for that advice. And I like to tell my students, that that stuff, that happens, and that IT is part of communications. I like to tell my students, all my students know that. I like to tell them that. The other advice that I've gotten was, I had something happen to me where I was promised a promotion and I didn't get it. And so the person who spent the year telling me that I'm going to get the promotion, then told me I wasn't getting the promotion, wanted me to write an email saying that I didn't want the promotion. So I reached out to a mentor of mine, a really good guy. He told me, don't write the email. He said, what could happen later on is, if you ever complain like, oh, this place never gives me any leadership opportunities, they can turn around and say, oh, but I gave you this opportunity, but look, you sent me an email saying that you didn't want it. So he told me, do not send the email. And I did not. And the person contacted me a couple of times asking me to send it. And I said, yeah, I'm going to send it, but I never did. because I took his advice, right? I didn't want, that, later on down the line, they say, oh, you don't want to do anything. You just, you just want to coast. No, I wanted them to know that I was into it. I really wanted the position. So I didn't sign it. And the last thing the piece of advice that I have is, so if you really, 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 and this is, again, this is just, it's not all, might not be all IT related. This will work in any function. And this was by a really good friend of mine, another guy who I considered a mentor. A lot of the stuff that he has taught me the years that I worked with him, I say it in the class, and he'll probably be happy that I do that. Is if you want a day off, and if you really need the day off, don't ask. Just take the day off. Just tell them, I'm going to take the day off. You do the right thing. Don't do no call, no show, but just tell them, I'm taking the day off Wednesday. You don't tell them, can I have the day off on Wednesday? Because he told me, and I'll never forget, he told me, then you're giving them the option to tell you no. When you say, hey, can I have the day off on Wednesday? And then he said, when you do that, it opens up for them to tell you no, and then what are you going to do? Right? So you just tell them, hey, I'm taking the day off. When I did my dissertation defense, it was on a Tuesday, and I just wrote, I won't be coming in on Tuesday. I'm doing my dissertation defense. They didn't ask if I could take Tuesday off, because what if they told me no? Right? So I just said, I'm not coming in on Tuesday. And the class that I had, even though the class was in the afternoon and the dissertation was in the morning, I wanted to take the day off because I knew if I didn't pass the defense, I was going to be so broken. But if I passed, I wanted to celebrate, right? So that's one of the things that. So I decided to go that route. So, but let's talk about mentorship first. To me, I think it's very important to have mentor, not just one mentor, but mentors with an S. But you have to find a mentor that is looking out for you, right? I have a couple of mentors now, pretty good ones. But I have mentors in the past of people who I thought were my mentor, and then they end up not really looking out for you. They end up looking out for themselves. And those are people who you have to cut, right? Once you realize that your supposedly mentor doesn't really want to look out for you, you just have to cut them off. Like, if you can't cut them off from your life for whatever reason, what I do is I just ignore any advice that they give me, because the trust has gone. But if you have truly good mentors, you listen to what they say. And I'm very, very fortunate to have one really, really good mentor. And I can go to him and talk to him about anything. And you know what? Sometimes he yells at me and says like, why did you do that? Oh, I wouldn't have done it that way, and he, explains to me why. And again, he's doing it because he cares, right? And there's people that, they have their own agenda. They have their own thing that they want to do. And you're part of that clog that they need to make the machine work for them. So they pretended to be your mentor, and then they're not. So it's very, very important to not only have a mentor, but be a mentor too, right? Because there's part of being a mentor is sharing your experiences with other people, right? Which is something that I love to do. I love sharing my experience with anybody who would listen. I had a student once that he got a ticket. It was like a very particular ticket, tracking ticket. And he had said that he couldn't, he said, "Oh, can I talk to you after class?" And I talked to him after class, and he said, "Oh, I'm not going to be in here tomorrow. I got this ticket that's driving me crazy. I can't sleep." And I asked, "Well, what's the ticket about?" And he explained to me what the ticket was. And I had the exact same issue like years back. And I told him exactly what to do. And he went to court the next day, texted me, said, "Oh yeah, everything is fine." Wow, he said that ticket wouldn't let him sleep for days. As he had to go in to court, like the closer the day went, the lesser he slept. He thought he was going to be in big trouble. I'm like, no, this is a simple thing. Do this, and this. And he did it, and he was fine. And he's like, wow, I wish I would have talked to you before. I said, but you see, this is why sometimes you don't want to tell people your problems, but sometimes telling people your problem helps, because if you find, you may find somebody who's been through that exact same issue and they can help you. And you don't have to go through sleepless nights, right? Wondering, what's going to happen. If you have that, that one mentor who or somebody there who looks out for you. I love being a mentor. I like sharing the wealth. And, you have to give back, as a Hispanic male. I feel an obligation to give back to the community, to my community, and to, the students, because I feel like it's an obligation for me. Yeah, I've had people help me throughout my years, and I feel like I have to give back. I want everybody to succeed. I don't want to be the one that succeeds and then I don't care about anybody else. That's very selfish. I've had people help me throughout my years of coming up, and I feel like it's an obligation for me to help other people, the next generation of people who want to do IT, want to do CompTIA, want to do their doctorate, their graduate degrees. And, it's, I feel like it's, I have to help them, hoping, and I do tell my students or people that I mentor, now you have to help other people. Right. So that's that comes the hard part, right? Helping other people do the same thing that you do. Right. Because that's important. We have to help each other, especially in this weird climate that we're going through here in the United States. So it's important to network. It's important to find people who would help you, people who would give you good, solid advice. People who don't have agendas, people who just generally want to help you. Because there's people that are, believe it or not, I used to be very cynical, but I realized that there's actually people out there who really, really want to help you. And, it's okay. It's okay to let them help you. It's okay. It's not that bad. You'll find people that don't, say they want to help you, and then they have their own thing. And those are the people that you want to weed out of your life. Sometimes you can't. There might be somebody in your family. There might be somebody who you work with, who you no longer consider them a mentor, and you still have to talk to them. And that's okay. But just you just don't need to take their advice. Be cordial, be respectful. But you don't have to go to them, saying, "Hey, I got a problem. Like, I want to bounce off you." No, that doesn't need to happen. Find good mentors. You need to find good, solid mentors, people who will help you, and you should be fine if you do that. So, So if you have any advice that you picked up along your life, it doesn't have to be IT related, though it could. Send me an email, Professor JRod at gmail.com. That's PROFESSOR JROD at gmail.com. And let me know, like, what kind of advice do you have? And if you have a mentor, and what has that mentor done for you? one or two things. Hopefully I get a couple of responses. If I do, be nice to read them. I would love to read them. Of course, if you give me permission, I won't say any names. But I think it's important that as a community, we share what we know, right? And share where we've gone wrong and where has life turned left. And those people who have gotten out of their way to help you get on the right path. Because life ain't easy, guys. When you're a kid, you want to be an adult, but when you're an adult, you want to be a kid, because it's life is easier when you're a kid. When I see these kids saying, I can't wait to be a grown up, and I'm like, really? No, you don't. It's tough, and you need to find those people who have your best interests at heart and will look out for you, and people who you can talk to. All right. That's going to be it for today. But thank you, everyone. But if you can, send me an email at professorjrod.com. We really appreciate it. Till next time.